Calling to order the Port Hueneme City Council regular meeting tonight for June 4th, 2018. And at 6:30, we'll have the flag salute, and I'll follow with the inspiration, so everybody rise. You can go ahead and be seated. Today, June 4th in 1919, the 19th Amendment passed. How many remember what the 19th Amendment is all about? It's about the women's right to vote. And it actually was headed up, it started in July 1848, many years ago. It started by a couple of ladies who felt that it really needed to be that the women had a right to vote, and they wanted it to happen. And it said that the female enfranchisement was still largely opposed by most Americans, and then the Civil War actually precluded further discussion. During the Reconstruction era, the 15th Amendment was adopted that granted African American men the right to vote, but Congress failed to expand its progressive or its progress in terms of allowing the other gender to vote. And so in 1869, the National Women's Suffrage Association, led by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, was formed to push for an amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The women also then, not only with the suffrage, but many of them then were part of the abolitionists, which were those that didn't want slavery, and then many of them worked against the drinking, what was going on during that time. I'm just trying to close in on the final part of this reading that I have from the internet. And let's see. By the beginning of the 20th century, the role of women in American society was changing drastically as more women were working, receiving a better education, and bearing fewer children. How many know that that's going on right now today in 2018? So in August of 1820, Tennessee became then the 36th state to ratify the amendment, and 8 days later, the 19th Amendment took effect. And as Susan B. Anthony was born in Massachusetts in 1820, she actually then worked on all of this, and it wasn't until 14 years after she died that the 19th Amendment became official. We also then have her portrait on a $1 coin that was done in 1879, making her the first woman to be honored. So for all the women out there, you know, this was a really big day many years ago, and we still celebrate today. Thank you. Okay, Madam City Clerk, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Fig, Councilmember Hensley. Here. Councilmember Sharkey, Mayor Pro Tem Burke. Here. Mayor Schnapp.
Here, and both Councilmember Sharkey and Fig have an excused absence. We have the agenda before us. Is there? Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, so motion carries unanimously. Then we come up to item number 5, open forum, and this is where we reserve 30 minutes for things that are not on the agenda. If you want to come up and speak, and each speaker will have 3 minutes. I do want to make mention here in that at our last meeting, there was during one of the issues that we talked about, which was the hotel along the beach, there was an issue that we would bring it back in July. And so we have word from Mr. Harv Champlin that he is withdrawing his application and his interest, and we will have something official then come through the city for that, but I was notified of that just this afternoon. And so for any of you that were here to talk about the hotel issue, I don't know if you still want to during public comment, but I just wanted to make mention of it here at the beginning of this meeting. So that's up to you. So we'll go ahead and come through open forum, and if you want to not speak, that's fine. I have speaker cards for Johnny Adamson.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Johnny Adamson, and I am a representative from the Port Hueneme Historical Museum, which is located at 220 North Market Street. We have some upcoming events that I think everybody in the community would be more than happy to attend. Our first event for June is going to be the Port Hueneme Historical Society Museum will be inaugurating the Hueneme Spirit Award on Saturday, June 9th at 11 o'clock, and that'll be at the Orvine Carpenter Community Center. And please come and join us because Chief Deputy Sheriff Dennis Carpenter will be there for the award presentation. Our next item, which is kind of it's kind of a weird one. We got Mr. Robert Salas. He's going to be addressing the issue of UFOs and nukes. So, hey, we're going to try, whatever, And that's going to be on the 16th of June, and it's going to be at the museum. And he is a retired Air Force officer, so I'm sure he's not talking like off the cuff, so to speak. So you're welcome to come to that. Our next event will be on the 23rd of June, and Mr. Jim Campos, and he's going to be discussing the various lemon and citrus labels. I'm sure you've seen them out at different stores and stuff, lemons and things. So we didn't know, but the actual label itself has significance to it. We thought, oh, they look pretty, they're nice, but they actually have a meaning to them. There's 3 classes of lemons, which I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with. First class is for drinking, second class is for candies, and the third class is what they put in the dish spray, kind of to give it a little smell. Okay, and we also have our, every third Friday of the month at 10 o'clock, we have our harbor tours. So all you have to do is come down and watch a short video of about 20 minutes. And after you do that, we'll sign you up, and this is totally free. They take you into the civilian side of the harbor and give you a tour of Del Monte and Chiquita Bananas and all the cars and stuff. It's really informative and really will let people know how much this port is so much valuable to the community. So if there's any questions.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you very much, Heather.
I have a speaker card for Mike Melvany, or McElvaney, sorry. Yeah. Welcome.
Good evening. Madam Mayor, City Council and staff, my name is Mike McElvaney. I'm a resident of Port Hueneme, and I had a really good speech that you kind of took the wind out of my sails with your announcement earlier, but I'll kind of shorten it. The first thing I wanted to say is thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your vote at the last council meeting not to sell the property in question there. I feel that was a very responsible, appropriate decision, and I appreciate that. The gist of my speech here was that the coastline we have here in Port Hueneme, well, in fact, the whole coastline of California is the most precious commodity we have, and we need to be very careful with any kind of development that affects the coast. And the thought of a high-rise hotel right on the coastline was just devastating to me personally. Part of my speech was, I just bought a home here in Port Hueneme. I'm a relative newcomer last October, and this is my retirement home. I'm retiring in July after 38 years with the fire service. I chose Port Hueneme primarily for the beach. I love the beach. This is like my dream, to live at the beach. I've been visiting Port Hueneme for the last 15, 20 years. My brother is a resident for the last 20 years, and we've spent many, many fine days at the beach here, and it's just a wonderful place to live, and I'm just really happy to be here. So the only thing I'd say in closing is that piece of property is obviously very valuable, very attractive, and I know it's going to come up again, and you'll have to make some more tough decisions. I really appreciate the staff report that the city attorney gave last session, and he made some fine points. I understand the need for being financially responsible. I just would caution you, just be very careful with the coastline. It's the only one we have, and a big hotel or something similar is there permanently. It's not going to come down again. So just thank you for your vote. Thank you for your time today, and I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Steve Huber.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, members of staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Huber. I'm on the St. John's Hospital Community Board, and tonight I'd like to talk about healthcare and grants. The health needs that we have in our area between Port Hueneme and Oxnard have been tiered, and some of the things that we may or may not be aware of is that one of the #1 killers in the area is opioids, but we also have issues with obesity, and in particular childhood obesity. In Port Hueneme and Oxnard, we're the #1 and #2 childhood obesity problem areas in the state. We also have homeless health care issues, in addition to a lot of people are not aware of access to care. What's available, what are the navigations? You go to the hospital, you're not sure how to fill out papers and things like that. St. John's is a 501(c) nonprofit, and we've given over $70 million in grants to the local community in the last few years. In the year 2019, we have a program coming up called the Accountable Care Communities Program, and we have $250,000 to grant. That's money available that is not tied to anything other than some type of health needs. In order to attack some of these healthy needs, we are asking for teams to get together. We'd like to have the prime or lead team to be a 501(c). We'd like to have 3 members of the team. We'd like them to have a common agenda with measurable goals or measurable statistics and focused on those healthy needs. We've had applications in the past for people to ask for studies. Don't bring us studies. We want people to do something to help attack these health needs. For instance, we granted the Boys and Girls Club monies for Fitbits so that we could go after the childhood obesity right there at the Boys and Girls Club of Oxnard and Port Hueneme. We're given money to the Traumatic Brain Injury Center to go after that issue that we have. In addition, some of you may be aware that the Salvation Army has opened up a transient homeless step-down unit so that if someone uses the emergency department that's homeless and they are discharged, they have a place to go now. St. John's donated 7 beds at $210,000 for that donation. So please pass the word. Mr. George West is the person in charge. I've given each of the members of the council and staff a copy of our flyer, and I've left some flyers for the public as well. George West is at area code 805-988-2688. And we would love to have more than 7 people apply this year. We have $250,000 that we'd like to give away. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Steve. And so that could be something that city manager would look into.
Yes, we'll take a look at the information, and it's also a potential REACH project. Sounds like some of the criteria for the grant are things that are consistent with REACH's mission, so either city or REACH or both could take advantage of it.
Right. Thank you. And then next I have Dr. Scott O'Neill.
Sorry. Just to keep things short, I'm going to have to read from my iPad if that's okay with you folks. And good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm speaking on behalf of law enforcement and first responders from a chaplaincy view and the safety issues, public safety regarding SB 54. I am Chaplain Scott O'Neill, recently retired from the Rogue Valley Chaplain Association of Oregon, and is a public safety chaplain and trained by the International Conference of Police Chaplains, the ICPC, which is nationally recognized as the premier law enforcement training organization for law enforcement, and in which I'm still a full member. I'm also currently a board certified crisis response chaplain, and I'm kind of speaking from that venue. But the talking points that come from being in law enforcement chaplaincy relate to the SB 54. I'm speaking tonight against the SB 54 and its dangerous and illegal aspects. I know it's controversial, and I'm not speaking from a political standpoint. It's just from a public safety vantage point. It's unconstitutional. It's been imposed on us, and it's against federal law. Federal and state police are pitted against each other in certain instances, which makes it awkward at times. For example, when a sanctuary city borders an opt-out city, would a criminal be inclined to come to an opt-out city or a sanctuary city? Recently, a police officer I spoke with encountered this very issue and said it was extremely awkward and a bit scary also, because he also had to face a gang member. And police really can't speak out. They're afraid that they won't get promoted or they'll get fired, actually. So it's an awkward situation to have state police being confronted by federal police, and just a very awkward situation. So when a sanctuary city is bound to comply with state law regarding catch and release, criminals are put back on the streets to commit crimes, once again endangering our community and law enforcement and first responders. SB 54 is not about immigration, it's a public safety issue. And SB 54 really, and is it really protecting the community at the end of the day? It handcuffs the innocent in many instances. As a law enforcement chaplain, I have great concern about these additional dangers we all face. Dangerous criminals have been allowed to have been put back on the street, and some with firearms and illegal drugs. And I have personally seen an exponential increase in crime since the passage of that. I'm probably out of time here, but but anyway, I just wanted to speak from a chaplain point of view that it's dangerous for us as we go out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, Councilmember Hensley. So, Dr. O'Neill, Jim wants to ask you a couple of questions here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your sincerity.
Yes.
And we have a lot of people there. We notice there's a movement around the whole county.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of reminiscent of the Tea Party that came through and started demanding things about 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
I'm sure you probably read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Sure.
You probably read Mein Kampf. And much of the things that is trying to be pushed by some of this organization, I'm sure it's well funded somewhere, that there are certain similarities of Mein Kampf and The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich and the stormtroopers and the brown shirts. Mexican people, Hispanic people are, this is for everybody here,
Mm-hmm.
we're all people, not American. We're all, hopefully most of us American. If you're not, you're still a human being.
Sure.
Okay? To single out, and I feel perplexed that this movement is trying to single out people and give justification for what they're doing. For example, I'm reading they're taking away children from the parents when they come across the border now. And what they're doing is to let the person out, they'll say, okay, you plead guilty to a misdemeanor, you violated the law coming across the border, you come again, and you're going to be a felon, and you're a criminal then, okay? And meanwhile, what are they doing with their children? One woman who was brought forth and then about 8 months without being with her kid. So there's two different sides of the story, and quite frankly, from what I understand, it isn't very applicable to us. It's more of a political message than I can understand, because our police department only books them and takes them to the county jail. We don't go talk to the county when we're going to do that.
With all respect, sir, I have talked to police enforcement, and it's a very mixed bill. And when you talk to law enforcement, I mean, I have to see not only the dead bodies, I have to give the death notification. So from my vantage point, I've seen crime go up since the passage of the bill. And That's what you're talking about is not an exclusive thing. That's not what happens all the time. And I'm not speaking to that part of the bill. I'm speaking about public safety and with catch and release. What you're talking about is something I'm unaware of, and probably a lot of law enforcement are unaware of too. I will say that there are bad cops, and I've seen them. I've been on duty with them, and there's no doubt, on both sides, federal and state, and that's a problem. That's a separate issue. The issue with SB 54 is that it's unconstitutional. It didn't really come by a lot of people. It was just by a few people that passed it. And that's a separate issue. That is a political
I mean to
thing.
wrap you up into a long dissertation, and we can discuss this over a cup of coffee.
Okay, good. But I don't think it's a political issue, and that's not why I came here to make it a Tea Party issue. It's just a public safety issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But call me for a cup of coffee. I think you have my card. We'll discuss it privately.
You've planted some thoughts that I've never thought of before, so
Okay,
it's
thank
all
you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? So Tom, come on up. You can fill out a speaker card then later.
Didn't expect to speak tonight. Tom King, Port Hueneme, Thousand Oaks, wherever you want to put me. A member of Save the Port Hueneme Coast. I want to recognize everybody that's here. I'd like them to stand. But in specifics, all of us, I'm sure in this room, up at the dais, love this city. I'm feeling a little emotional right now due to the fact that we honestly didn't expect the news that we heard right at the beginning. We're all members, we're all united, you can sit. and I'll be brief, but I do want to thank, in particular, I'd like to thank Mr. Green and also Mr. Kinney. They've been nothing but cooperative. Mr. Green put together a letter. That was a very special letter to Jerry Guerin, and meant a lot. Certainly, Michelle's been fantastic. But really, all the council members that are here and not here, and the Champlins, we're still resolved. Still don't want anything right now on that property, but we know that the city, we all love the city, and if we can do something, and I've talked to a couple people already about putting together a group to try and more specifically come up with ideas. I did indicate some might be bad, some might be good, but the point is that we want to help. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of our group. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? We still have some time at the end of the agenda to speak. Did you want to speak? You have to come up to the podium. You can't stand there. And you have to fill out a speaker card before you leave. Thanks. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I won't take 3 minutes. Just addressing your response to the SB 54. It's my understanding that the SB 54 problem is only with career criminals that are being released back into the public, and that's my concern. Okay, the gang members and the career criminals that are not being that are being released back into the public without being turned over to the ICE and so forth. So, anyway, that's
Okay.
my concern.
Thank you.
Well, I
Yeah.
will.
Thanks. Okay. So then we move on to item number, yes. Oh, did you want to speak? Come up and state your name, and then you
My
can
name's
fill out
Linda
a form.
Kaplan. I live in Port Hueneme. I just wanted to thank you guys for the last council meeting. Particularly, I wanted to thank John Sharkey. I'm sorry he's not here. But at the last meeting, he came forth with a wealth of information of many questions that I had in my mind that had not been answered. And at various points during the meeting, or during the speaking out, he was answering questions, putting forth the questions, and then giving us the answer. It was extremely helpful to me, and I wanted to thank him for that, for being so open and honest with the people here.
Kind of gave a chronology,
Yes,
right?
he
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
He did a very good job, and I wanted to thank him for that.
He did.
And thank you, Council.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, thank you. Okay, seeing none, and you do have some time at the end of the agenda to speak if you want. We'll move on to item number 6, the consent agenda, and it includes items 6A all the way to 6L.
Move approval.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None, so motion carries, and consent agenda is approved unanimously. So let's move on then to item number 7, Public Works, and it's our quarterly report. And with that, we have Mr. Don Villafana.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. This is the quarterly report for Public Works. And if I think we need to dim the lights a little. Let's see. Michelle, you want to just run the... Okay, this is the quarterly update for Public Works from March through May 2018. The next slide. And some of the things we've been doing, we recently installed 4 radar signs. These are the locations, 2 on Surfside, 1 on Pleasant Valley, and the other one on Channel Islands. Here we go. This is putting up the Surfside radar sign, and by parking lot, the other one was by parking lot A. This is, there's parking lot A. Okay, let's go to the next slide. This is as you go by Surfside, by the Public Works yard, just off of Pleasant Valley. All right, next slide. And this is on Pleasant Valley and Maplewood. They're putting it in the median. All right. And this is on westbound Channel Islands Boulevard, not far from Lido. All right. And you know, sand buildup is a concern at the beach, and really in preparation for the summer season, you can see the condition of the sand behind the wall, and then that just blows over onto the walkway. So our Public Works street crew and landscape crew were out there moving it, and on the left you see it was before, and on the right you see the after. All right. We have 6 traffic signals, and our controllers are 35 plus years old. This is at Hueneme Road and Ventura Road, and this is a key intersection for the port. And if we've had a lot of trouble with this signal, and my concern was that the last thing we wanted was it to go to fail, and then it goes into the flashing mode, and it becomes a 4-way stop, which would truly be a tremendous bottleneck to the port. So with SB1 funds, we replaced this controller as our first controller to replace, and we're going to look at the other 5 signals in the city and probably, hopefully, do that also. Next, and in preparation for Memorial Day in the summer, high pedestrian area on Surfside, we were repainting the bike lanes and the crosswalks. Next slide. And again, we've put in a flashing curve sign on Surfside where we have the crosswalk near the gazebo. All right. There's the other flashing curve sign. And at all our schools, we've upgraded all the signs to the highly reflective crosswalk signs, and with the highly visible flags, and we're maintaining those flags on a regular basis because about every 3 months they get beat up with wind, rain, just the elements. So we've got an ongoing thing. Pedestrian safety, and especially the school children is the highest priority. The next one. And, things do happen. We had a truck going to the port, going west on Pleasant Valley, on Hueneme Road, and it swerved into the bike lane, and it hit a large tree, and you can see the damage it did to the tree. Fortunately, we called the police department. They met with our public works people out there, and they were able to track down the truck because it was a hit and run. And we're in the process of working on collecting from the insurance company for that. And you can see it was repaired quickly by our public works crews. Next slide. And graffiti. Unfortunately, graffiti is an issue everywhere in the city. And unfortunately, even at the Alaska Flight Memorial. And here's our street crew power washing the memorial, removing some graffiti. There's more graffiti down at the end of Ventura Road. Our streets crew is painting it over. And we've had 3 fires, May 5th, May 15th, and May 21st in Bubbling Springs. And we believe there was some homeless people that were involved in this, and I believe PD is investigating, but fire department was prompt in responding. We actually got some pictures of the fire. Public Works was quickly on the scene also. Next slide. And then we cleaned up the area afterwards. This is what it looked like. We had to get an emergency permit because it is in a waterway. And so this is what it looks like right now, that section anyway. Next slide. Picnic benches. Last year when I got here, there was a lot of long neglected maintenance, and we were able to get a lot of that done by midsummer. Well, in preparation so that we didn't have to do that again, we started in April. And you can see our streets crew out there, patching and painting the picnic benches at the beach, getting ready for Memorial Day. And this is more preparation for Memorial Day. We cleaned the sand off of the picnic areas and the windscreens. We painted the windscreens. We removed the sand behind the wall so it wasn't on the walkway. And if you can see, we removed we brushed it, we swept it, and we shoveled it off of the walkway. Next slide. And also our facilities crew is busy working, assisting our housing department. Housing is up for an inspection later this summer, so our facilities crew has been working hard over at Mar Vista for the HUD inspection. Coming soon. All right. On President's Weekend, we had impaired drivers strike the Channel Islands Bridge, and the design is just about complete. I expect to have a job walk next week, and we're going to go. I'll be back here to the City Council in July to award a contract to repair that bridge. Unfortunately, we have to front the money with gas tax money, but with the deputy city manager and the police department and our city attorney and JPIA, we're aggressively going after restitution, and we should be able to refund the gas tax fund eventually. Next. The port has, we're partners with the port, and they've requested some pedestrian upgrades. This is at Hueneme Road and Market, and we'll be putting in a flashing ped crossing there. And we're working on that. There's about a 6 to 8 week lag time, but between the time we order it and the time we get the equipment in, and it will be installed with our own street crew. The next slide. Tree trimming, that's an ongoing issue. We're doing it partially with some contract work and also with our in-house landscape crew. Next slide. ADA upgrades is very important. Unfortunately, here at the city, there are a number of ADA deficiencies, and we're hopefully going to be working on the design to rectify those, putting in some power-actuated doors in the front and creating a true path of travel that is ADA compliant. Next slide. We're also, again, with SB1 funds, we're going to be purchasing 2 more radar signs to be placed in some of the areas where we have issues with excessive speed. Okay. Miranda Park, the City Council came to City Council about a month and a half ago with a number of amenities at the beach, but we were asked to come back and present a list of items for potential Miranda Park site amenities, and that will be coming up either in July or probably late July right now.
If I could recommend, because a few of us would probably have to recuse ourselves if it was incorporated with the beach, because that's why we sat out. But I believe during that discussion, as we weren't, John Sharkey and I weren't here for the discussion, others then said that they wanted to hear more about Miranda. So if we could just split them up.
We are separating them.
Thank you.
We are separating them.
Great, thanks.
Just for exactly that reason.
Great, thank you.
And right now, ongoing, we awarded the tennis court 7 and 8 construction, and that's going to be starting in July. And that will finish off. All the tennis courts will then have been rehabilitated. These were the 2 that were in the worst condition, and we cannot repair these. Those are asphalt courts. The asphalt is coming out. New asphalt is going back in, and then the surfacing. Very similar to what we did with the basketball courts, which were in terrible condition. We could not rehabilitate those. We had to remove the asphalt and replace it. So this is going to be starting in July. The beach park amenities, we will be coming back separately with a package for Miranda Park and then also a package for the beach. And still, we have, in the fall and winter, I'll be coming back to the council to present our citywide pavement maintenance plan. And, you know, we have a great public works staff here. And there's some of the team. These are the people that really do the heavy lifting out there. Next slide. Keep going. All right. Next. All right. Next slide. And recently retired, we had Steve Hickox, our water manager and deputy director. He did a fantastic job. Mark Dahl, facilities maintenance. He's been here. He did a fantastic job. Current public works vacancies. Of course, the deputy director of public works, water operations manager. That's very important. We're working on getting that recruitment going. Construction inspector is going to be our annuitant is leaving the end of this month. That has to be filled. Part-time labor for landscape, a mechanic, a wastewater operator, water operator, and a facilities maintenance worker. So we are shorthanded. You know, we're juggling a lot of things right now. Next slide. And we are the friendly city by the sea. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Yes, Councilmember Hensley.
A couple of questions and a couple of comments, and thank you very much, Mr. Bill. I'm totally impressed with the direction that your department is taking on this. The signs, I would suggest that I want you, it seems like most people are paying attention to the speed sign. However, there's still the road out there who's goes by me at 60 miles an hour and 45 miles. I impressed on the council. I think we still have a need to have another police officer at least address that part-time for that. And as our chief has told us, once these people start getting a few tickets going 60, 70 miles an hour and 45, they won't be so apt to do it the next time. It makes an impression on them, so they'll follow the sign. So that's something I'd like to bring to the council on. The tables at the beach, well, what difference you guys have made down there. The ADE upgrades, yeah, we need that. We need all, there's spots on the beach I think that we probably need to do and Miranda Park. The tennis courts, thank you. Get that taken care of. The beach park amenities, it's starting to shape up. I'm looking forward to your next presentation. So, that's my comments on it. Just keep your nose to the ground and keep, you're a sailor, you know what to do. So keep it up. Fantastic, thank you, sir.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Villafana. Great report. One of the monthly committees I sit on is the Southern California Association of Government, SCAG, Transportation Committee. We meet downtown LA every month, and we get presentations from the various county members. SCAG is 6 counties, almost 20 million people. It's the largest metropolitan planning organization in the country. And so we're always getting new ideas at the committee level. Have you had any discussions or thoughts here regarding our bicycle paths? What I'm seeing a lot of now is cities are beginning to paint the bicycle paths green. Now, I don't know how much paint we have, but it sure does stand out.
You're right. That was originally the city of Ventura, and Tom Miracle, their traffic manager, he was one of the pioneers in that. And it still hasn't really been fully approved. It was in a experimental stage. The other part is it is not paint. It is a surfacing that goes down, and it is very expensive, much more expensive than the paint we use. So while we could put it in, it is a very expensive product, and we'd have to contract that out.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. You have something else? Okay, Councilmember Hensley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The green paint, as Councilman Berg points out, stands out. It grabs attention. The downside that I understand in some cities that movie companies like to come into certain communities and do shoots. And once that green is in there, it kind of distracts from the whole thing. You know it's not 1949 anymore, you know. So that's, and I'd kind of like to see our city get to that point. We've had other movies partially shot here, and that's a good source of revenue. And maybe one of these days we can get an agent of whatever to start encouraging the movie companies to come up here and use our beach and some of our roads. So the green, I think, is fabulous, but if it hinders a movie, then we'd have another situation. So, but you glass bead everything anyway, do you not?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Actually, the Ventura County Film Commission sits within the EDCBC, and they promote all the cities for that. And so they have contacts in our city to make sure that those opportunities come through. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Villafana. Thank you for all the updates. You and your team work spectacular things. Since day one when you came in, you hit the ground running. And so I haven't seen a project that has come through that you say, you know, it's too big, it's too costly, you make it work. And you've even, you know, incorporated some other funds in order to get the job done. So I appreciate the work that you and your team do to keep our city really shining and looking really good. I noticed that as we were approaching Memorial Day, that you had quite a crew out on the beach working through all of this, whether it was moving the sand or putting out the lifeguard towers, which is really important during the season between Memorial Day and Labor Day when we have our lifeguards out. And so I appreciate you always being on the ball. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. On behalf of the Public Works team, I thank you, because they're the ones that are doing it. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. So we move on to item number 8, City Manager Report and Comment. So Mr. Butler.
Nothing this evening, Madam Mayor, but don't get too used to this short meeting situation because we're going to put you to work on June 18th. We already have a very active agenda, so enjoy it while it lasts.
I see. That's right. We're only at 7:15 right now. Okay. So item number 9, council member reports, comments, and requests for future agenda items. So is there anything? Do you have anything? Yes, Councilmember Hensley.
Yeah, I do. First of all, I'd like to ask for agendizing this concept. I passed it around to some people here, but if you could pass this one for the city clerk, one for the other council persons. This appeared in the Los Angeles Times this last weekend, and I believe our city should take the lead and create something new here. If we can cut our water use by half, if we can get our residents used to redesigning for water tolerant, drought tolerant, coastal friendly designing, they can cut their water bill in half. So consequently, we would cut down on water and have something that looks really nice possibly, if we incentivize the program and encourage the people to get behind it. So I'd like to have that brought forth on the agenda. Also, I'd like to have brought forth on the agenda a concept of what to do with our surfside fish stand down there. I think we can get this worked out somehow or another a little bit better. So if we could put that somewhere in the future, I think it'll really be a benefit. Also for the audience, our famous Will Berg, Councilman Will Berg, is going to be presenting a talk, and if you heard an excellent speaker, this guy is an excellent speaker. He spent years in China, and he won't even speak Chinese that much this time, okay? But he's going to be speaking at the Navy League at 11:30 on June 14th on the Bard Mansion. If you have, you can contact me if you'd like to go. It's $15 for your dinner, and I have access to the base so I can take you into it. And I would like to have a special invitation to our city manager and to our attorney, who's already been to one. And in fact, maybe if we get him back, he may become a member of the Navy League. So pass those over with you. And also, Chief, if you'd like to have one of these, we'd like to invite you also. That's my little talk. Thank you all.
Thanks. So I have a couple of things here. I was at the captain's retirement. You know, Captain Chris Yonke, who has served a little bit over 3 years, has just recently retired. And so I was joined there by, I believe I saw Mayor Pro Tem Berg there and Councilmember Hensley. It was a wonderful ceremony held out at Magoo. And they brought in the big guns, you know, not only his boss from the Southwest Regional, but then a gentleman from that represented all the work that he had done out in D.C. And so it was a really nice send-off for him and his family. The great news is that the captain's actually staying in our region, in not just this community, but staying pretty close by. And so you might run into him, but he really had a sense of community, I believe, in regards to the last 3 or 4 that I've seen come through. He was very low-key, down-to-earth. You could approach him for anything. He was just always really welcoming. And he's also then known in the military for all his little quips. I believe they've quoted like 500 different verses that he's used over the course of time, and ribbed him about it last Friday. But that was a really nice ceremony. Let's see. I also attended on May 19th the Northern California, Southern California Sister Cities Organization meeting. It was held in Bakersfield. And you would ask, why Bakersfield, right? So Bakersfield actually has 5 sister cities, and they're around the world, from Mexico to Japan to India. And one of the cool things that I came away with is that the city of Bakersfield has a park that they've dedicated to incorporating some of the elements of the cities that they have a relationship with. So you'll see items that might stand out from the different cities and the countries at this park in Bakersfield. And they did this not with any city funds, and so it's really pretty spectacular. One of the cities, just for example, they are a sister city of Querétaro in Mexico, and Querétaro is known for the aqueduct system that was built hundreds of years ago, and so that's one of the elements that they have there at Mill Creek Park. But it was a wonderful meeting. They talked about working together. We also had the gentleman who runs Sister City International from Washington, D.C. out at this 2-day conference, and so we shared a lot of ideas, but really just spreading the news about how important it is to understand what Sister Cities does, and hopefully within the next couple of months we'll have our first meeting with Ensenada, Mexico. Did you have something? Oh, okay. In terms of what's going on here for the trees that we presented to the different cities and counties, both Ventura and Santa Barbara County, with regards to the Thomas Fire recovery, many of them, actually all of them, were really excited that we were there, surprised that we were there, and very honored that we recognized them with a tree from this city. And so I did receive a letter from Mayor Johnny Johnson, City of Ojai, dated May 23rd. And he says, "Dear Sylvia, what a wonderful surprise to have you visit our city council meeting last night and include us in Port Huenemi's celebration of its 70th anniversary. Your gift on behalf of Port Hueneme of an eastern redbud sapling was so generous and thoughtful. We already are discussing the perfect place to plant it." And he says, "As I pass it on my daily walks through town, I look forward to watching it grow into a beautiful tree and future residents knowing it represents a long friendship between our cities." So this was part of our 70th anniversary, but really helping those cities then really start and rebuild. And it was a great honor to go to the different cities and counties to represent this gift. Councilmember Sharkey actually, I think, went to the city of Fillmore within the last couple of weeks. And then last but not least, well, there's two other things, is that I will be presenting Friends of the Bard this Friday, and it's regarding our 70th anniversary. I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about what happened 70 years ago, but really looking forward to the rest of the events that we have this year. And you know what? I'm going to cut it off. I think that's the end for my part. All right. We will continue open forum with this at this time of the agenda, item number 10. And so if anybody has anything to speak to the City Council on matters not on the agenda, you have some time now. And seeing none, then we will adjourn to the next regular meeting scheduled Monday, June 18th here at 6 o'clock at City Council chambers. Thank you.